Welcome back, Inspiral family. I'm so glad you're here. This isn't just another book. This is a journey into the myths that shaped the ancient world and still echo in our stories today. We're diving deep into the heart of Greek mythology, a place of gods and monsters, love and betrayal, war and destiny. Each chapter will unfold like a tale passed down by the fire in simple language, full of wonder, power, and ancient truths. Here's a brief overview of what we'll explore. Chapter 1. The Birth of the Cosmos. We begin with chaos, the vast, dark emptiness that birthed everything. We'll discover Gaia, Uranus, and the origins of the Titans and Olympians. You'll learn about the first betrayal, Kronos overthrowing his father Uranus, and the twisted beginnings of divine power. Chapter 2. The Rise of the Olympians. In this chapter, we follow Kronos, his paranoia, and the prophecy that his own children would dethrone him. We meet Rhea, and how she saved baby Zeus. With the help of Metis and the Cyclopes, Zeus rises, frees his siblings, and starts a war against the Titans. A war that reshapes the world. Chapter 3. Tartarus and Divine Punishment. Here, we'll go deep into Tartarus, the prison of the Titans and a place of eternal suffering. We'll witness the cruel punishment of Prometheus, who defied Zeus to give fire to humanity, an act that changed the world forever. Chapter 4. Pandora and the Birth of Human Suffering. What happens when the gods decide to punish mankind? We'll explore the creation of Pandora, her infamous box, and the evils it released into the world. But at the bottom of the box, hope, and that's the light that still burns. Chapter 5. The Trojan War. This chapter tells the tale of love, betrayal, and war, from the beauty contest among the goddesses to Paris stealing Helen and the 10-year siege of Troy. We'll walk beside heroes like Achilles and Odysseus. We'll discover how the cunning Trojan horse ended it all. Chapter 6. Creatures of Chaos. Enter the world of monsters, from the Chimera and Hydra to the wild horses of Diomedes and the three-headed guard dog Cerberus. You'll hear the full stories of how heroes like Hercules and Bellerophon faced these beasts. Chapter 7. The 12 Labors of Hercules. A whole chapter dedicated to the trials of Hercules. From the Nemean lion to capturing Cerberus, we'll explore each of the 12 labors and how they forged Hercules into a legend. Chapter 8. The Minotaur and the Maze. In this chilling tale, we meet the Minotaur, born of a king's deceit and a god's revenge. Follow Theseus into the Labyrinth, uncover the twisted story of King Minos, and the human sacrifice demanded by the beast. Chapter 9. After the Gods. What happens when the age of gods ends? We'll explore how humanity begins to rise, the decline of divine intervention, and the lasting moral lessons Greek mythology left behind. This audiobook will bring mythology to life in spoken word, not dry facts, but vivid human storytelling. So settle in, Inspiral family. The myths are waiting. Chapter 1. The Birth of the Cosmos. The beginning before all beginnings. Long, long ago, before time itself had a name, before the sky stretched above or the sea rolled below, there was nothing, not a little something, not darkness or silence, just nothing. This is where our story begins. This nothingness had a name: chaos. But chaos wasn't noise or mess. In Greek mythology, chaos meant a yawning gap, a great emptiness that had no shape or sound. It was the very first thing to exist, a formless void that held the potential for everything, even though nothing yet had form or life. Out of chaos, something miraculous happened. From this deep nothing came the first beings of the universe, and the first among them was Gaia, the earth. Gaia was the great mother of all things. She wasn't just the ground beneath our feet. She was the earth itself, alive and powerful. Her skin was the soil, her breath was the wind, and her heartbeat could be felt in the rhythm of the mountains and rivers. She was fertile, beautiful, and strong, and Gaia was lonely. So from herself, Gaia gave birth to Uranus, the sky. He stretched high above her, vast and brilliant. Uranus sparkled with stars, and his arms wrapped around Gaia like a blanket. Together, they formed the first couple in all of creation, earth below and sky above, forever joined in an endless embrace. Gaia and Uranus had children, many, many children. Their first children were the Titans, 12 powerful beings who each represented parts of the natural world. They were tall and strong, with minds that could shake the heavens. There were 6 brothers: Oceanus, the father of rivers and oceans; Hyperion, who brought light to the world; Coeus, the seeker of knowledge; Creus, master of the constellations; Iapetus, the ancestor of mankind; and Kronos, the youngest, but the most cunning. The sisters were just as mighty: Tethys, the nurturer of rivers; Theia, who shone with brilliance; Themis, the keeper of justice; Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory and stories; Phoebe, who brought wisdom; and Rhea, the mother of gods to come. But Gaia and Uranus didn't just bring beauty and strength into the world. They also gave birth to strange and terrifying creatures: the Cyclopes, who had only one eye in the center of their forehead, and could forge lightning with their bare hands; and the Hecatoncheires, giants with 100 arms and 50 heads, whose roars could split mountains. Uranus saw these monstrous children and was afraid. He didn't want them roaming free, so he did something cruel. He forced them back into Gaia's womb, trapping them deep inside the earth, causing her terrible pain and sorrow. Gaia, in agony and anger, wept beneath the weight of her imprisoned children. Her heart, once full of creation and joy, turned heavy with grief and rage. She could not bear to suffer in silence any more. So she created a plan, a bold and dangerous plan. From her iron-rich soil, Gaia crafted a massive sickle, a blade curved like the crescent moon, sharp enough to cut the sky. She went to her Titan sons and begged them to stand up to Uranus and free their brothers. But only one was brave enough. Kronos, the youngest Titan, clever and ambitious, agreed to help. He took the sickle and waited in hiding. When Uranus descended once more to embrace Gaia, Kronos leapt from the shadows. With one powerful stroke, he struck his father down, slicing the sky and ending Uranus's rule. Uranus's blood rained down upon the earth and sea, and from this divine blood new beings were born. The Erinyes, or Furies, rose from the soil, terrifying spirits who hunted those who shed family blood. From the drops that touched the oceans came the giants and the Meliae, ancient tree spirits. But something even stranger happened next. From the sea foam that formed when Uranus's severed parts fell into the ocean, a new and breathtaking goddess was born. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, emerged from the waves, standing on a seashell, radiant and divine. Where she walked, flowers bloomed. With Uranus gone, Kronos became king of the cosmos. He freed his fellow Titans and took his sister Rhea as his queen. Under their rule, the world entered what would later be called the Golden Age. It was a time of peace and plenty. The earth gave its fruits freely, the skies were calm, and the first mortal beings lived in harmony. There was no hunger, no war, no pain. But even in paradise, shadows can grow. Before his fall, Uranus had spoken a prophecy, A curse, really. He warned Kronos, "One day you too shall be overthrown by your own child, just as you overthrew me." This warning haunted Kronos. He could not shake the fear of being betrayed even by his own blood. So when Rhea bore him a child, Kronos did the unthinkable. He swallowed the baby whole. First Hestia, then Demeter, then Hera, each one gone before they could speak a word. Then came Hades, then Poseidon, all eaten one after another. Rhea, heartbroken and desperate, begged him to stop, but Kronos would not take the risk. Power, once gained, must be protected, or so he believed. When Rhea was about to give birth to her sixth child, she could no longer bear the grief. She sought help from her mother Gaia and devised a clever trick. When the baby was born, she named him Zeus and hid him away in a secret cave on the island of Crete. In his place, she wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and handed it to Kronos, who swallowed it without a second thought. Hidden in the cave, Zeus was raised by gentle nymphs and protected by fierce warriors who clashed their shields day and night to drown out his cries. He drank the milk of a magical goat named Amalthea, and he grew fast, strong in body, and sharp in mind. When Zeus came of age, he returned to face the father who had swallowed his brothers and sisters. With the help of Metis, a clever goddess of wisdom, Zeus gave Kronos a special potion. It made him sick, so sick that he vomited up the 5 children he had swallowed. One by one they returned to the world: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, full-grown and filled with fury. Together the siblings joined Zeus. The time for war had come. They freed the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires from their prison deep within Gaia. In gratitude, the Cyclopes forged powerful weapons for their rescuers. Zeus received the mighty thunderbolt, Poseidon the great trident, and Hades the helm of invisibility. And so began the Titanomachy, a war like no other. For 10 years the heavens thundered, the seas boiled, and mountains were shattered. The Titans fought from Mount Othrys, while the Olympians battled from Mount Olympus. The Hecatoncheires hurled rocks like meteors, shaking the earth with each throw. In the final battle, Zeus hurled his thunderbolt with such force that it cracked the sky open. The Titans, defeated and broken, were cast into Tartarus, a deep, dark abyss below even the underworld, bound in chains of unbreakable metal. The cosmos was forever changed. Zeus, now king of the gods, claimed the sky. Poseidon took the sea. Hades ruled the realm of the dead. The Olympians built their shining palace on Mount Olympus, watching over the world below. But even in victory, one truth remained. Power never comes without cost. This was only the beginning, for in every shadow a new story waits, a story of betrayal, bravery, love, and loss. And as long as mortals walk the earth, the myths will live on. Chapter 2. The Rise of the Olympians. New gods, new battles, new fears. The Titans had fallen. The great war was over. The dust had settled across the land. The sea was still again, and the skies cleared after years of thunder and flame. The Olympians, the children of Kronos and Rhea, had won. Their names would soon echo through every mountain and temple, from village songs to mighty epics. Zeus, wielder of the thunderbolt, stood tall as the new king of the gods. His brothers, Poseidon, ruler of the oceans, and Hades, lord of the underworld, stood beside him. Their sisters, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia, each took their place among the divine, forming the foundation of the new world order. But victory did not mean peace, not yet. After the Titanomachy, the war between Titans and Olympians, the world was fragile. The earth bore scars. Mountains had split, forests burned, and rivers changed their course. Mortals, who were beginning to take shape in the corners of Gaia's vast land, trembled at the roars of battle still echoing in the distance. The Olympians needed to rebuild, not just the world, but also trust among one another. They had won the war together, but ruling the cosmos was another challenge altogether. First came the division of power. It was agreed that the three brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, would share the cosmos, but not equally. Zeus drew the sky, becoming king of the heavens and ruler of thunder, lightning, law, and justice. He made his throne on Mount Olympus, a high, hidden peak covered by swirling clouds and eternal light. Poseidon drew the sea, all the oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams. With his trident, he stirred the waters and commanded storms and earthquakes. His kingdom was deep beneath the waves, in a shimmering palace of coral and pearl. Hades, drawing the shortest lot, claimed the underworld, the shadowy realm of the dead. Though his domain was feared, Hades ruled it with fairness. His kingdom was not a place of eternal torture for all, but rather a place of order, where souls journeyed after death. The land, the earth itself, belonged to Gaia, and the Olympians chose to let it remain wild, shared among gods and mortals alike. But just when it seemed the world might finally rest, a new threat emerged, one more terrifying than any titan. The rise of Typhon, the last monster of chaos. Gaia, the Earth Mother, was furious. She had watched as her beloved children, the Titans, were cast into the deepest darkness. Though Kronos had brought her pain, she still loved him. And now she watched Zeus rule from Olympus, her grief turning into rage. So Gaia called upon Tartarus, the dark pit of the underworld, and together they gave birth to a new being, the most monstrous creature the world had ever known, Typhon. Typhon was no ordinary beast. He was taller than the highest mountain, with 100 dragon heads on his shoulders. His eyes flashed fire, and his breath scorched the air. His body was covered in writhing serpents. His voice could shake the stars. When he screamed, the winds howled across the earth, and even the gods trembled. Typhon stormed across the land, destroying everything in his path. Mountains melted, rivers boiled. The sky turned black with smoke. The Olympians, stunned by his power, fled in terror. Many gods hid in Egypt, disguising themselves as animals. Apollo became a raven, Hermes a stork. Ares turned into a wild boar, and Artemis became a cat. Even mighty Poseidon dove deep into the sea to escape Typhon's wrath. But one god stood firm, Zeus. This was his world now. He would not let fear undo everything they had fought for. With his thunderbolts crackling in hand, Zeus rose into the sky and faced Typhon. The battle shook the very bones of the earth. Fire met lightning. Roars cracked the mountains. The seas surged with every blow. At first it seemed Typhon might win. He tore Zeus's muscles from his body and hid them in a cave guarded by a dragon. But with help from Hermes and Pan, Zeus tricked the dragon, regained his strength, and returned stronger than ever. This time, Zeus gave it everything he had. He struck Typhon with a thunderbolt so powerful it burned through the sky. Typhon fell, crashing into the earth with a roar that echoed forever. Zeus hurled him beneath Mount Etna in Sicily, and there he remains, buried beneath the earth, his fiery breath still erupting as smoke and lava from the mountain's mouth. The gods returned to Olympus, shaken but victorious once again. The shaping of the world. With Typhon defeated, the world finally began to settle. The gods began to build their golden palace atop Mount Olympus. It was no ordinary castle. It shone with sunlight, hidden by thick white clouds. Inside were halls of marble and gold, thrones of crystal and ambrosia, the food of the gods. From there, the Olympians could see every corner of the world, speak to winds and stars, and shape the fate of mortals below. But the gods didn't just want to rule. They wanted to create a dot. Zeus looked down at the earth and saw that it was beautiful, full of forests, mountains, rivers, and seas. But something was missing. There was no one to tell stories, no one to love or dream or build. The gods wanted a new being, one that could walk the earth, feel wonder, and carry the divine spark in their heart. And so humanity was born. The Titan Prometheus, who had once fought alongside Zeus, took special interest in these new beings. He shaped humans from clay, molding them with care. His brother Prometheus gave gifts to the animals, strength to lions, wings to birds, shells to turtles. But when it came time to give gifts to humans, nothing was left. Prometheus, kind and clever, decided to give them a gift no animal had received, something that would help them survive and grow. He gave them fire. But that story of Prometheus, the fire thief, and the price he paid is one we'll explore in the next chapter. For now, know this. The age of the Olympians had begun. They ruled the heavens, the sea, the dead, and the dreams of mortals. They were wise and flawed and powerful, and their stories were just beginning. Because where there are gods, there is jealousy. Where there is power, there is fear. And where there is fire, there is rebellion. Chapter 3. The Fire Bringer, the Titan who loved humanity too much. In the golden light of a new world, with the gods ruling from their glittering thrones on Mount Olympus, the earth began to breathe with new life. Rivers flowed, winds danced, forests stretched their arms toward the sky, and animals roamed freely across the land. But the most curious and fragile of all creations were the mortals, humans. They were soft-skinned, slow-footed, and weak compared to lions, bears, or even birds in flight. They had no claws or fur. They could not roar or fly. Yet within them was something special, a spark of potential, a flicker of something divine. That spark needed help to survive. It needed protection. It needed fire. And this is where our story turns to a Titan, not a god of Olympus, but one who had walked the world long before Zeus ever held a thunderbolt. His name was Prometheus. Prometheus, the creator. Prometheus was not like the other Titans. While most had been proud and powerful and content to vanish into memory after the war, Prometheus had remained. His name meant forethought, the ability to think ahead, to plan, to outsmart. And true to his name, Prometheus saw something the Olympians did not. He saw the potential in humankind. Some say he was the one who shaped the first humans out of clay and water, gently molding their bodies with his large hands, giving them legs to walk, eyes to wonder, and hearts that beat with curiosity. His brother, Prometheus, whose name meant afterthought, was also given the task of creating life. But he was careless, handing out gifts of strength and speed to the animals until there was nothing left for humans. Prometheus looked at his delicate clay people and saw they were defenseless. They had no sharp teeth, no fur to keep them warm, no wings to fly away from danger. He pleaded with Zeus, king of the gods, "Let me give them something to survive, fire, the sacred flame." But Zeus said no. He believed fire was for the gods alone. It was a symbol of divine power, the flickering heart of Olympus itself. If mortals had fire, Zeus feared they would become too bold, too clever. They might challenge the gods, forget to be afraid, or even try to become divine themselves. So Zeus forbade it. But Prometheus loved humankind too deeply to watch them suffer. The Great Theft. One night, while Olympus slept beneath its veil of clouds, Prometheus made his move. He climbed the sacred peak, past the marble halls of the gods, into the workshop of Hephaestus, the god of fire and metal. There, burning on the forge, was the eternal flame, bright, golden, alive. Prometheus reached into the fire, shielding it in a hollow stalk of fennel, a plant with a soft core that could hide embers. Then, like a silent thief of light, he descended from Olympus and walked among mortals, placing the flame into their hands. Fire point, it changed everything. With fire, humans could cook food and warm their homes. They could craft tools, bake pottery, melt metal, build civilizations. Their lives, once huddled in fear, now burned with warmth and invention. Smoke curled into the sky, not from Olympus, but from the hearts of villages and cities. And Prometheus watched with joy. But not all were pleased. High on Olympus, Zeus looked down and saw flames dancing in the hands of mortals, a gift that had been stolen, a command that had been disobeyed. His rage burned brighter than lightning. The punishment of Prometheus. Zeus did not strike with thunder, not this time. He wanted a punishment so terrible, so eternal, that it would become legend, a warning to all, god or titan, who dared defy his rule. He ordered Prometheus to be chained to a mountainside, high in the jagged Caucasus range, where icy winds howled and storms never ceased. There, Prometheus was bound in unbreakable chains, stretched across the rocks, unable to move or sleep. And every day a monstrous eagle, the sacred bird of Zeus, would fly down and tear into his body, feasting on his liver. Prometheus was immortal. He could not die. So each night the liver would grow back, only for the eagle to return at dawn and begin the agony again. Day after day, year after year, century after century. But Prometheus did not scream for mercy. He did not beg. He endured, because he knew the truth, that he had given humanity a gift that no god could take away, a gift that lived not just in hearths and torches, but in the fire of the human soul, the fire of hope, creativity, and freedom. The second punishment, Pandora. But Zeus's wrath did not stop with Prometheus. If humans had dared to accept fire, they too would suffer. To punish mankind, Zeus crafted a trap, a beautiful, perfect trap. He called upon Hephaestus to shape a woman from clay. The gods gifted her with every charm, beauty from Aphrodite, grace from Apollo, music from the Muses, cunning from Hermes, and curiosity from Hera. Her name was Pandora, which means all-gifted. Zeus gave Pandora to Epimetheus, Prometheus's brother, as a bride. Though Prometheus had warned him never to accept gifts from Zeus, Epimetheus was enchanted. He welcomed her with joy. As a wedding gift, Zeus gave Pandora a mysterious jar, later called a box, and told her never to open it. But curiosity is a powerful thing. One day, Pandora's hands trembled as she touched the lid. She hesitated, then lifted it, just a crack. And in that moment, the world changed. Out flew all the evils of the world: pain, sickness, war, greed, fear, old age, jealousy, and death. They swirled into the air, spreading across the earth. Mortals, once at peace, now knew suffering. They wept, they fought, they aged, they died. Panicked, Pandora slammed the lid shut. But it was too late. Only one thing remained at the bottom of the jar, a tiny, flickering light. Hope. It was small, but unbreakable, and it remained in the jar, waiting to be released when humanity needed it most. Even in punishment, the gods had left a path forward, a reminder that no matter how dark the world becomes, there is always something left to hold on to, a spark that never dies. Prometheus hung in silence, his chains glinting in the sun. But below, fire still crackled in homes, in stories, in the laughter and dreams of humankind. He had given them something eternal, and one day, far in the future, a hero would come. A son of Zeus, mighty and kind, would climb the mountain and break the chains. His name was Heracles, or Hercules, and he would free Prometheus from his torment. But that is a tale for another time. For now, remember this: fire is more than flame. It is light in the darkness. It is warmth against the cold. It is courage in the face of fear. And sometimes the greatest gifts are the ones that come with the highest cost. Chapter 4. The Trojan War. Of beauty, betrayal, and the battle that shook the world. Before it was a war that would last 10 years. Before it became a tale whispered by poets and sung around campfires. Before mighty heroes fell and gods took sides. It was simply a wedding. The apple of discord. The gods were gathered on Mount Olympus to celebrate the marriage of a mortal man named Peleus and a sea nymph named Thetis. It was rare for gods to attend a mortal wedding, but this one was special. Even Zeus himself was present. There was food, music, laughter. Everything was perfect. But one goddess had been left out of the invitation: Eris, the goddess of discord and chaos. Eris did not take the insult lightly. As the celebration reached its peak, she appeared uninvited, her dark eyes flashing with mischief. In her hand she held a golden apple. Upon the apple, in shimmering letters, was written just 3 words: "To the fairest." She tossed the apple into the crowd of gods, and instantly chaos erupted. 3 goddesses reached for it at once. Hera, queen of the gods, proud and regal. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, fierce and clever. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, radiant and enchanting. Each claimed the apple. Each believed she was the fairest. A quiet feast turned into a thunderstorm of arguments. No one dared to choose between them, not even Zeus. So he made a decision that would change the world. Let a mortal judge. The judgment of Paris. Far from Olympus, in the hills near the city of Troy, lived a young prince named Paris. Though royal by blood, Paris had been raised as a simple shepherd. An old prophecy had warned his parents that he would bring ruin to Troy, so they had sent him away at birth. Paris was kind, thoughtful, and handsome, and it was to him the gods turned to settle their quarrel. The 3 goddesses came to him not as divine beings, but as women, each trying to win his favor, and each offered him a bribe. Hera promised to make him king of all lands, the most powerful ruler in the world. Athena offered him unmatched wisdom and victory in every battle. Aphrodite whispered a sweeter promise. She would give him the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris, swayed by love, gave the golden apple to Aphrodite. But there was one problem. That most beautiful woman she was already married, the spark that lit the war. Her name was Helen, Queen of Sparta. She was married to Menelaus, a powerful king, but she was also said to be a daughter of Zeus, her beauty so great that poets claimed even gods paused to admire her. With Aphrodite's guidance, Paris traveled to Sparta and met Helen. Whether by love or enchantment, she followed him back to Troy. When Menelaus returned and discovered that his wife had been taken, he was furious. But more than heartbroken, he was humiliated. He called upon his brother Agamemnon, the mighty king of Mycenae. Together, they summoned the leaders of Greece. They reminded them of an old vow. When Helen was first wed, all her suitors had sworn to protect her marriage, no matter who won her hand. Now it was time to fulfill that oath. 1,000 ships and 1,000 heroes. Greece answered the call. From every kingdom came ships and warriors. The sea turned black with sails. Among them were heroes whose names would echo for eternity. Odysseus, clever and cunning, the king of Ithaca. Ajax the Great, strong as a mountain. Nestor, the wise old warrior. Diomedes, fearless in battle. Achilles, the fiercest of them all, son of the sea goddess Thetis, born to shake the world. Together they sailed to Troy, a city strong, rich, and proud, protected by walls said to be built by the gods themselves. And so began the Trojan War, the 10-year siege. For 10 long years, the Greeks camped outside the gates of Troy. There were battles and truces, duels and raids. Sometimes the gods helped. Sometimes they caused chaos. Sometimes they fell in love with mortals, and other times they watched them fall with tears in their eyes. The war was not just between men. The gods took sides, too. Hera, Athena, and Poseidon sided with the Greeks. Aphrodite, Apollo, and Artemis stood with the Trojans. Troy had its own heroes, too. Hector, prince of Troy, noble and brave. Aeneas, son of Venus, destined for greatness. Paris, whose love had caused it all, fought with a bow from the walls. The wrath of Achilles. Among the Greeks, no warrior was more feared than Achilles. He was fast, deadly, and nearly invincible, dipped as a baby in the river Styx by his mother, Thetis. Only his heel, where she held him, was vulnerable. But Achilles was not just a fighter. He was proud. When Agamemnon insulted him and took a woman Achilles loved, he refused to fight. The Greeks began to lose ground. Then tragedy struck. Patroclus, Achilles' dearest friend, put on his armor and led the Greeks into battle, hoping to inspire them. But Hector, believing it was Achilles, struck him down. When Achilles learned of Patroclus' death, something inside him shattered. His grief turned to rage. He returned to the battlefield unstoppable. He faced Hector in single combat, and after a fierce duel, he killed him. In his sorrow, Achilles dragged Hector's body behind his chariot, a cruel act that shamed even the gods. But fate would not let Achilles escape forever. Not long after, Paris, guided by Apollo, shot a poisoned arrow that struck Achilles in his only weak spot, his heel. The great hero fell, and the Greeks wept. The wooden horse Troy still stood. No wall had fallen, no gate had broken. But Odysseus, ever clever, had one final idea, a trick the Trojans would never expect. The Greeks built a massive wooden horse, hollow inside. They left it at the gates of Troy and pretended to sail away. Inside the horse were the finest warriors, hidden, silent, waiting. The Trojans, believing the war was finally over, dragged the horse into the city as a prize. That night, as the people of Troy celebrated, the warriors crept out, opened the gates, and let the Greek army return. Troy burned, the city fell, its towers crumbled, many heroes died, and Helen was taken back to Sparta. But the cost was terrible. The dead could not be brought back, and for many survivors, the journey home would be as cursed as the war itself. The end of glory. The Trojan War was more than a battle. It was the end of an age, the age of heroes, of God-touched warriors and golden cities. It left behind ruins, ghosts, and songs. Some say the gods grew tired after the war. Others say they saw too much pride, too much pain, and so they began to step back from the world of men. But the war gave us stories, stories of love that defied kings, pride that brought ruin, and cleverness that outwitted even fate. It showed us that even the strongest can fall, and even the wisest can be fooled. But above all, it showed us this, that every choice, even one as small as giving an apple, can shape the destiny of the world. Chapter 5. Heroes and Monsters, the Brave, the Cursed, and the Beasts of Chaos. In the world of Greek mythology, not all battles were between armies. Not all dangers came from war or jealous gods. Some came from the shadows of the earth, from deep caves, dark forests, cursed islands, and the edges of the unknown. These were monsters, creatures of chaos, born from the rage of gods or the broken rules of nature. Some were ancient and wild, others created as punishment. All were terrifying. But where there are monsters, there are also those who face them. And these, the heroes, are the heart of this chapter. What makes a hero? A Greek hero wasn't just someone who fought well. They were more than soldiers or kings. They were often born from both God and mortal, their lives shaped by fate, their choices filled with risk. Heroes had flaws. Some were proud, some were foolish, but they always stood against the impossible. When monsters rose from the depths, it was the hero who stood between the world and chaos, and in doing so, they became legends. Hercules, the strongest of all. Let's begin with the most famous of all, Hercules, or Heracles, as the Greeks called him. He was the son of Zeus, king of the gods, and a mortal woman named Alcmene. From birth, Hercules was strong. As a baby, he strangled 2 snakes sent to kill him in his cradle. But strength was not enough to protect him from sorrow. Hera, Zeus's wife, hated Hercules. She saw him as proof of her husband's betrayal. So she cursed him with madness. One terrible night, Hercules lost control, and in his frenzy, he killed his own wife and children. When he awoke and realized what he had done, he was filled with grief. He begged the gods for a way to redeem himself. The answer came from the oracle of Delphi. You must serve King Eurystheus and complete 12 impossible tasks, the labors of Hercules. These labors were so famous they earned their own chapter. But for now, know this. Through every monster he faced, every test of strength, wit, or pain, Hercules showed what it meant to keep fighting, even after breaking. He became more than a hero. He became a symbol of endurance. Perseus and the Gorgon's stare. Long before Hercules, another hero was born, a clever young man named Perseus. He was sent on a mission that no one was meant to survive, to slay Medusa, one of the 3 Gorgon sisters. Medusa had once been beautiful, but was cursed by Athena. Her hair turned to writhing snakes, and her gaze became deadly. One look, and you would turn to stone. No man had ever returned from facing her. But Perseus had help. Hermes gave him winged sandals so he could fly. Athena gave him a polished shield to see without looking directly. The gods gave him a curved sword and a magical helmet of invisibility. With these gifts, Perseus flew to the edge of the world, found Medusa sleeping, and used the mirrored shield to strike without meeting her eyes. With one swing, he beheaded her. From her blood sprang two creatures, Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chrysaor, a warrior of gold. Perseus placed her head in a special bag, later using it to defeat his enemies, for the head still held its deadly power. He saved a princess, Andromeda, from a sea monster. He overthrew a wicked king, and he proved that cleverness and courage could defeat even the darkest curses. Bellerophon and the fire-breathing Chimera. There was once a creature so strange it seemed stitched together by nightmare. It was called the Chimera, a monster with the body of a lion, the head of a goat rising from its back, and a serpent for a tail. It breathed fire and destroyed everything in its path. The man chosen to defeat it was Bellerophon, a brave but proud warrior. To face the Chimera, Bellerophon first had to tame Pegasus, the winged horse born from Medusa's blood. With the help of the gods, Bellerophon climbed on Pegasus and flew high above the Chimera. From the sky he threw his spear, tipped with lead. The lead melted in the monster's fiery throat, choking the beast. Bellerophon became a hero, but he grew arrogant, even trying to fly Pegasus to Mount Olympus. The gods, displeased, sent a gadfly to sting Pegasus. Bellerophon fell back to earth, broken and humbled. Even heroes must learn limits. Theseus and the Maze of Death. In the land of Crete, a dark secret was kept, deep inside a twisting maze called the Labyrinth. At its center lived the Minotaur, a half-man, half-bull creature born from a cursed union. It fed on human flesh. Every 9 years, King Minos of Crete demanded a cruel tribute from Athens, 7 boys and 7 girls, to be sent into the labyrinth as sacrifice. Enter Theseus, Prince of Athens. He volunteered to go, not to die, but to kill the beast. Before he entered the maze, he met Ariadne, Minos' daughter, who gave him a thread to help him find his way back. As Theseus ventured into the twisting corridors, he unraveled the thread behind him. Deep in the darkness, he found the Minotaur. They fought, strength against fury. In the end, Theseus struck the final blow, freeing his people from fear. With the thread, he escaped the labyrinth. He returned home a hero and a symbol of bravery, guided by kindness. Other beasts of legend, Greek mythology is filled with wild monsters and the mortals who dared to face them. The Hydra, a serpent with many heads. Cut off one, 2 more grew. Hercules faced it as one of his labors, burning each stump to stop it from regrowing. The Stymphalian birds, with feathers of bronze and a hunger for flesh. The mares of Diomedes, man-eating horses that no one could tame. The Cyclops, one-eyed giants. Odysseus once blinded one named Polyphemus after being trapped in his cave. The sirens, whose beautiful voices lured sailors to their deaths. Odysseus had his men plug their ears and tied himself to the mast to resist their song. These monsters were more than physical threats. They represented fear, pride, greed, temptation, and all the things we must face inside ourselves. Atalanta, the swift huntress. Not all heroes were men. Atalanta was a princess abandoned at birth and raised by bears. She became the fastest runner in Greece and a skilled huntress. She joined the quest for the Golden Fleece alongside Jason and the Argonauts. She was the first to wound the Caledonian boar, a monstrous beast terrorizing the land. Many men sought to marry her, but she made a condition. Anyone who wished to marry her must beat her in a race. If they lost, they died. One man, Hippomenes, used his mind. With help from Aphrodite, he dropped golden apples during the race. Atalanta paused to pick them up, and he won. Her story reminds us that heroes are not always those with swords, but those with strength, speed, and cleverness, no matter their gender. Why monsters matter. Why did the gods create monsters? Some were born of curses, some of punishment, others were tests, challenges sent to mortals to prove their worth, to shape them into something greater. Every monster stood for more than just danger. They were metaphors, symbols of fear, pride, temptation, anger, or death. And every time a hero faced a monster, they weren't just saving others. They were transforming themselves. That's what makes a true hero. Not perfection, but the willingness to step into the dark, to face the impossible, and to return, scarred but stronger. In the next chapter, we walk alongside Hercules himself through each of his 12 legendary labors, the most grueling trials ever faced by a mortal man. Chapter 6. The Labors of Hercules, Strength, Suffering, and the Path to Redemption. You've heard of Hercules, the strongest man in all of Greek mythology, but his story is not just about muscle and power. It's about pain, guilt, courage, and the long road to forgiveness. You see, even heroes fall, and Hercules fell hard. The burden of a curse. Hercules was the son of Zeus, king of the gods, and a mortal woman named Alcmene. Because of this, he was no ordinary man. He had the strength of a god, stronger than any human alive. But that strength couldn't protect him from what came next. Hera, Zeus's wife, hated Hercules. He was a reminder of Zeus's unfaithfulness. So, out of jealousy and rage, she placed a curse on Hercules, a curse that clouded his mind. One day, in a moment of madness, Hercules did the unthinkable. He hurt the people he loved most, his wife and children. And when the madness faded, he was left with nothing but grief. He wept. He begged for forgiveness, but nothing could erase what had happened. So Hercules went to the oracle of Delphi. He asked, "What must I do to atone for my sins?" And the oracle gave him an answer. "Serve King Eurystheus. Complete 12 impossible tasks. Only then will your soul be free. 12 labors, 12 tests, each one more dangerous than the last, each one designed to break him. But Hercules would face them all. Labor 1, the Nemean lion. The first challenge? Kill the Nemean lion, a beast with skin so tough that no sword or arrow could cut it. Hercules hunted it across hills and forests. When weapons failed, he used his bare hands. He wrestled the lion, locked his arms around its neck, and squeezed with all his might until the creature finally fell. Then he skinned the lion with its own claws, the only thing sharp enough to cut through its hide, and wore the pelt as armor. From that day on, he looked like a beast himself. Labor 2, the Lernaean hydra. Next came the Hydra, a serpent-like monster with 9 heads. But it wasn't just that. Whenever Hercules cut off one head, 2 more grew back. The creature lived in a stinking swamp, surrounded by poison. Even its breath was deadly. Hercules brought his nephew Iolaus to help. As Hercules cut off each head, Iolaus burned the stump with a torch to stop it from growing back. Finally, Hercules crushed the one immortal head and buried it under a giant rock. He kept the Hydra's poisonous blood. It would come in handy later. Labor 3, the Ceryneian Hind. This labor wasn't about killing, it was about catching. The Ceryneian Hind was a beautiful golden deer, sacred to Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. It was fast, faster than the wind. Hercules chased it for a whole year, through mountains, across rivers, never resting. In the end, he caught it gently, without hurting it. When Artemis appeared, angry, Hercules explained. He wasn't hunting it for sport. He was doing his penance. She let him go. Labor 4, the Erymanthian Boar. The 4th labor took him into the snowy mountains to capture a wild boar, a giant beast with tusks like knives. Hercules didn't kill it. He chased it through the snow, wearing it out, until it collapsed. He tied it up and carried it to King Eurystheus. When the king saw the beast, he was so terrified, he jumped into a jar to hide. Labor 5, the Augean Stables. This one sounds simple, clean some stables. But these weren't ordinary stables. They belonged to King Augeas, who had thousands of cattle. The stables hadn't been cleaned in years. The smell alone could make a god faint. Hercules had one day to clean them. Instead of shoveling dung for days, he had a smarter idea. He dug 2 trenches, then redirected 2 nearby rivers to flow through the stables. In one afternoon, the filth was washed away. Work smarter, not harder, even for Hercules. Labor 6, the Stymphalian Birds. Next, Hercules had to deal with a flock of man-eating birds with sharp bronze feathers and beaks like swords. They lived in a swamp and filled the sky like a dark cloud. To drive them out, Hercules used a rattle made by Hephaestus, the god of invention. It made such a loud noise that the birds panicked and took flight. Hercules shot them down with arrows one by one as they tried to escape. Labor 7, the Cretan Bull. In Crete, a massive bull was causing chaos, the same bull that fathered the Minotaur. It had fire in its eyes and could crush trees under its hooves. Hercules wrestled the beast, grabbed its horns, and forced it to the ground. He brought it back alive, again terrifying King Eurystheus. Then he let it go free. Labor 8, the Mares of Diomedes. In the 8th labor, Hercules had to capture the man-eating horses of King Diomedes, a cruel tyrant. These horses were wild and insane. They ate human flesh and had been trained to kill. Hercules fought Diomedes, defeated him, and fed the king to his own horses. After that, the beasts calmed down. They had lost their master. Hercules led them away without a fight. Labor 9, the Girdle of Hippolyta. This time Hercules was sent to the land of the Amazons, warrior women who were unmatched in battle. He needed to take the golden belt of their queen, Hippolyta. At first, Hippolyta welcomed him. She offered him the belt peacefully. But Hera, always stirring trouble, disguised herself and spread lies that Hercules was there to attack. A battle broke out. Hippolyta was killed, and Hercules took the belt. But the victory was full of sorrow. Labor 10, the Cattle of Geryon. Next, Hercules had to journey to the edge of the world, to a red island where the giant Geryon lived. Geryon had 3 bodies, 3 heads, and a herd of beautiful red cattle guarded by a two-headed dog. Hercules crossed deserts, mountains, and rivers to reach him. He built the Pillars of Hercules, now called the Strait of Gibraltar, marking the edge of the known world. In a fierce battle, he defeated Geryon and brought the cattle home. Labor 11. The Apples of the Hesperides. These golden apples grew in a secret garden guarded by nymphs and a dragon with 100 heads. Hercules didn't even know where the garden was. He wandered the world looking for it. Along the way, he met Prometheus, still chained to the mountain. Hercules killed the eagle and freed Prometheus, ending the Titan's eternal suffering. Eventually, Hercules tricked Atlas, the Titan who held up the sky, into fetching the apples for him, then tricked him again to take the sky back. That's right, Hercules held up the sky on his shoulders. Even the heavens couldn't crush him. Labor 12. Capture Cerberus. The final labor was the hardest. Go to the underworld and bring back Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guarded the gates of the dead. Hercules descended into the world of shadows, where no living man had gone before. He faced ghosts, crossed rivers of sorrow, and stood before Hades, god of the dead. Hades agreed to let him take Cerberus, but only if Hercules could do it without weapons. And so Hercules wrestled the giant dog with his bare hands, calmed its fury, and led it back into the world of the living. Then, like a true hero, he returned Cerberus to the underworld, unharmed, the end of the labors, and a new beginning. With the 12th labor complete, Hercules was finally free. He had faced beasts and gods, crossed the known world, and gone into the land of the dead. But he had also learned something even greater than strength, that redemption is possible, that even when broken, we can heal. That courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward in spite of it. Hercules would go on to live more adventures. He would sail with the Argonauts, fall in love, make mistakes, and finally, after his mortal body was burned away, he would rise to Olympus as a god, not because he was perfect, but because he never gave up. Chapter 7. The Labyrinth and the Minotaur. The Maze of Shadows and the hero who found his way out. Some monsters live in the wild, deep in forests, hidden in caves, or swimming in oceans. But some monsters are kept in palaces, in prisons, in labyrinths. This is the story of a king who broke a promise, a beast born from a curse, and a brave young man who dared to face the darkness with only a thread of hope. This is the tale of Theseus and the Minotaur. A broken promise to a god. It began with King Minos, the powerful ruler of the island of Crete. He once prayed to Poseidon, god of the sea. "Send me a sign that I should be king." Poseidon answered. From the waves, he sent a beautiful white bull, shining and strong, a perfect gift from the gods. But Minos broke his promise. Instead of sacrificing the bull to Poseidon as he had vowed, he kept it. He thought, "This bull is too perfect to give up." He offered another one in its place, thinking the god wouldn't notice. But the gods always notice. Poseidon was furious, so he didn't punish Minos directly. He cursed Minos' wife. Under the curse, she fell in love with the very bull her husband had stolen. The details are strange and dark, but from this twisted union came a child, a creature, a monster, the birth of the Minotaur. The child had the body of a man, but the head of a bull. He was powerful, angry, and uncontrollable. He could not live in the world of men, but he could not be killed either. So King Minos turned to the greatest inventor of the ancient world, Daedalus. Daedalus built the Labyrinth, a maze so vast and twisting that no one who entered could ever find their way out again. Walls stretched endlessly, paths doubled back. There were no signs, no light, no escape. At the heart of this maze, Minos locked away the Minotaur, a monster made from a lie, but he still had to feed it. The tribute from Athens. Years earlier, Minos' son had died while visiting Athens, and Minos blamed the Athenians for his loss. So he made a terrible demand. Every 9 years, you must send me 7 young men and 7 young women. I will feed them to the Minotaur. The people of Athens had no choice. They lived under the shadow of fear. When the time came again, and the black-sailed ship arrived to take the chosen youths, something different happened. A young prince of Athens stepped forward. His name was Theseus, and he said, "I will go. I will enter the maze. I will face the Minotaur, and I will end this curse." Theseus in Crete. Theseus sailed across the sea with the other doomed youths. When they arrived in Crete, the people whispered. No one had ever come back from the labyrinth, but someone was watching him, someone who would change his fate. Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos, saw Theseus and fell in love. But more than that, she saw something in him, hope. She couldn't bear to watch him walk to his death, so she went to him in secret. In her hand was a simple tool, a ball of thread. "Tie this at the entrance," she said. "Unravel it as you go. If you defeat the beast, follow the thread back. It's your only way out." Theseus took the thread. He took her hope, and he entered the labyrinth, into the darkness. Inside, the world changed. The stone walls rose high around him. Every turn looked the same. The air was cold. The silence was loud. Step by step, Theseus unraveled the thread behind him, marking his path through the maze. He walked for hours, maybe days. Time did not exist in the labyrinth. Only fear, only the unknown. And then he heard it. A low, echoing sound. A growl. A breath. The Minotaur, eyes like burning coals, horns that scraped the walls, a body built for rage and ruin. Theseus fought with no armor, no shield, only a sword and a will stronger than fear. They clashed. The monster charged. Theseus dodged, ducked, and struck. The beast slammed him into walls, dragged him through dust. But Theseus never stopped. He waited, watched, and at the right moment he struck true. With one deep blow, he brought the Minotaur down. The beast roared one last time, then fell silent. Escape and return. Breathing hard, bruised and bleeding, Theseus followed the thread back through the winding maze. Turn by turn, twist by twist, the path led him back to light. He emerged, alive. He took Ariadne with him. They left Crete in secret and sailed away under the stars. But their love did not last. On an island called Naxos, Theseus left Ariadne sleeping and sailed away. Some say the gods told him to. Others say his heart had changed. The truth was lost to time. Before returning to Athens, Theseus forgot one thing, a tragic mistake. He had promised his father, King Aegeus, that if he returned alive, he would change the black sails of his ship to white. But in his joy and hurry, he forgot. When the ship appeared on the horizon with black sails, King Aegeus thought his son was dead. Grief-stricken, he leapt into the sea, and that sea still bears his name, the Aegean Sea. The meaning of the maze. The story of Theseus and the Minotaur is more than just a fight between man and beast. The labyrinth is life. It's the maze of choices, fears, and uncertainty we all walk through. The Minotaur is what we fear most. The things we try to hide, the truths we try to lock away. And the thread is what brings us back. Love, hope, kindness, memory. We all get lost sometimes. We all face monsters inside ourselves. But if we're brave, and if we have something or someone to guide us, we can find our way back. And that, too, makes us heroes. Chapter 8. The End of the Mythic Age. When gods grew silent and mortals took the stage. Every story has an ending, even one filled with gods who hurl lightning, monsters with 100 heads, heroes who sail beyond the edge of the world, and battles that shake the sky. This is the story of how it all began to fade, the twilight of the gods, the final chapter of myths where immortals stepped back and mortals began to shape their own future. But endings don't always come with fire or fury. Sometimes they arrive quietly. The world begins to change. For ages the gods had ruled from Mount Olympus. They had guided the winds, stirred the seas, blessed the harvests, and cursed the greedy. They fell in love, started wars, saved heroes, and sometimes destroyed them. But over time, something changed. Mortals, humans, began to ask different questions. Questions not about thunder or divine punishment, but about themselves. Why are we here? What makes something right or wrong? How does the world truly work? They still told the stories. They still whispered the names of Zeus, Hera, Athena, and Apollo. But something inside people was shifting. They began to think more, to observe, to wonder beyond the myths. And from that wondering came something new. From myths to philosophy. As the age of heroes faded, new kinds of minds rose up, not warriors or demigods, but thinkers. People like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, great philosophers from Greece, began to ask deeper questions. They looked at the world not through the lens of myth, but through reason and logic. Instead of praying to the gods for rain, they studied the weather. Instead of blaming Poseidon for an earthquake, they explored the earth itself. Instead of fearing fate, they asked, can we choose our own path? It wasn't about forgetting the old stories. It was about growing. Just as a child listens to bedtime tales, but one day learns to read their own book, so too did humanity begin to write its own story. The gods stepped back. As humans began to take control of their world, building cities, writing laws, studying the stars, the gods of Olympus slowly began to fade from sight, not because they were defeated, not because they were no longer powerful, but because they were no longer needed in the same way. Mount Olympus grew quieter. The temples once filled with offerings and song became places of memory. Statues of gods stood still, no longer speaking through oracles. The thunderbolts became just storms. The waves no longer roared with Poseidon's anger, just the wind. And maybe, just maybe, the gods watched from a distance, proud of the world they helped shape. Because that's what every creator must do. Let go and let their creation grow. But the stories never died. Even as temples crumbled and philosophers rose, even as history marched on and new beliefs took hold, the stories lived on. Children still listened to tales of Achilles and Odysseus. Artists painted Pegasus and carved Hercules into stone. Poets sang of Orpheus and his tragic love. Stars were named after Andromeda, Perseus, and Orion. The myths became more than stories. They became symbols. Symbols of courage, love, curiosity, pride, and hope. Because even if people no longer believed the gods lived on Olympus, they still saw pieces of them inside themselves. Zeus in leadership, Athena in wisdom, Aphrodite in love, Hades in loss, Hermes in invention. The gods, in a way, had not left. They had simply moved inside us. The legacy of the myths. Greek mythology isn't just old stories from a long-dead culture. It's a mirror, one that shows us who we are. The struggles of the gods feel like our own. The courage of the heroes reminds us we can rise after we fall. The monsters reflect the fears we all carry. The labyrinths teach us that even in confusion, there's a way forward, if we're brave enough to take it. And that's the real power of myth, not in whether the gods were real, but in the truths they carried. Truths that still whisper in books, in dreams, and in quiet moments when we look up at the stars and wonder. The story never really ends. So, Inspiral family, thank you for walking this path, from chaos to Olympus, from heroes to monsters, from fire to wisdom. Greek mythology isn't over, it's just changing shape. It lives in the stories we tell, in the lessons we pass down, and in the way we continue to ask the same ancient questions. What is good? What is love? What is destiny? What does it mean to be human? Maybe you'll tell these tales to someone else one day, or maybe you'll live your own legend, because every heart carries a spark, and every spark, like Prometheus's fire, can light the world. Chapter 9. After the Gods, the Silence of Olympus. The halls of Mount Olympus were quieter now. Once the thunder of Zeus shook the heavens, once the laughter of the gods echoed through golden halls, and their footsteps stirred the winds. But time moves differently for immortals. Eons passed, wars were fought, heroes rose and fell, and slowly the gods began to fade. Not in power, never in power, but in presence. They no longer walked among mortals as they once did. No longer did Athena appear in battle, whispering strategy into a general's ear. No longer did Apollo ride the sun chariot so low that his warmth could be felt on human skin. The age of miracles was ending. Why? Some say the gods grew weary of human greed. Others say humanity simply outgrew them, that when Prometheus gave us fire, he gave us the means to shape our own fate. No longer did we need Zeus to bring rain, we dug wells. No longer did we pray to Poseidon for safe voyages, we built stronger ships. The gods became stories, then legends, then myths. But their absence did not leave the world empty. The rise of mortal kings. With the gods receding, humanity stepped forward. Great cities rose, Athens, Sparta, Thebes, ruled not by divine decree but by the hands of men. Kings like Theseus, who united the villages of Attica, and Cadmus, who brought writing to Greece, became the new architects of destiny. But power, as the gods well knew, is a double-edged sword. Where once the gods decided fate, now men did, and men were flawed. Pride led to wars. Greed birthed tyrants. Without the watchful eyes of Olympus, humanity had to learn its own lessons, the hard way, the last echoes of the divine. Though the gods no longer intervened directly, their influence lingered. In justice, The laws of Draco and later Solon echoed Themis's scales. In art, poets like Homer and Hesiod kept the gods alive in epic verse. In the stars, heroes were immortalized as constellations, forever watching from the night sky. Even in retreat, the gods left their mark. The final prophecy. Before vanishing into myth, the oracle of Delphi spoke one last riddle. When the golden ones depart, their shadows remain, not in temples, but in the hearts of men. And so it was. The gods did not die. They transformed into ideals, into lessons, into the very fabric of human thought. Why the myths still matter. You might ask, if the gods are gone, why tell their stories? Because myths are more than just tales of the past. They are mirrors. The hubris of Icarus warns us against arrogance. The perseverance of Odysseus teaches us to endure. The love of Orpheus reminds us that some bonds defy even death. The gods may have left, but their wisdom did not. Final chapter. The flame lives on an ending or a beginning. And so, dear listener, our journey comes to an end. From the silence of chaos to the heights of Mount Olympus, from the roar of monsters to the wisdom of heroes, we've walked through the myths that shaped an ancient world, and in many ways still shape our own. We met gods who were powerful but flawed. We saw heroes who were brave but broken. We watched mortals rise, stumble, love, lose, and rise again. We learned that even the strongest fall. Even the cursed can heal. Even the smallest flame, a spark of fire, a thread of hope, can light the way through the darkest maze. And maybe that's the real magic of Greek mythology. It's not about whether the gods are real. It's about what they represent. It's about us. Because haven't we all faced monsters of our own? Haven't we all wandered lost through some kind of labyrinth? Haven't we all needed a guiding thread, a kind word, a helping hand, to lead us home? These ancient stories still live because we still feel them. We are all part hero, part mortal, part god, and part flaw. We are Hercules in our struggles. We are Prometheus when we protect those we love. We are Odysseus when we long for home. We are Pandora, curious, fragile, but still holding hope. We are Athena when we choose wisdom. We are Theseus when we face the beast and do not run. You are the next story. The myths don't end with this audiobook. They continue in you. Every choice you make, every challenge you face, every story you tell, it all becomes part of the myth that you're writing every single day. You don't need a golden apple or a god's favor to be legendary. You already are. Your kindness, your courage, your creativity, that's what keeps the flame burning. So go ahead. Be bold like Perseus. Be wise like Athena. Be fierce like Atalanta. Be wild like Artemis. Be thoughtful like Prometheus. Be human like all the gods once were. Thank you for walking this path. Thank you truly for joining me on this journey through the myths of ancient Greece. If these stories lit even a small spark in your heart, if they made you wonder or feel or dream a little deeper, then their magic still lives. And so, Inspiral family, until we meet again, keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep the stories alive, because somewhere out there, in the stars or in your soul, a new legend is waiting to be told. And maybe this time, it will be yours.